कंफर्म वही सोच रहा था कि इसको थोड़ा आगे बात बढ़ाई जाए ताकि कोई कंफर्म होता नहीं एकदम बजट के विदिन हो ऐसा। Good morning, everyone. Am I audible, people? Now, can you people chat? I think yes, right? Okay, so very good morning to all of you. today I thought yesterday we had many people had counseling sessions. So if you haven't got a call for the counseling session as yet, it is because we are going in serial order. So some people missed their sessions, but I think most of the students did attend. It was a great thing talking to you all. And people who have missed or whose turn did not come, or they came but they had to wait and therefore they left, we will now have it in the right order. So we have planned to keep longer time duration and fewer people so that we are able. You will get the call. Don't worry. People who haven't got the call, you will get the call this week. But people who got the call but they could not come, or they had to wait and they left. For them, we will have again. I think there are not more than 4 or 5 people. So yesterday we had planned around 40 odd people, and out of 40 odd, I think almost 35, 36 did attend. The others, either they missed or they could not come. So for them, we will have a separate arrangement in the coming on coming Saturday, or maybe on any of the weekdays in the evening time after 6 or 7. So that way we can distribute the entire discussion over a period of time. So that is less exhausting. Otherwise, yesterday since 11, from 11 to almost 8 in the evening, we kept on talking to students. So it was almost 9-hour affair. Okay. So don't worry about the calls. You will definitely get a call if you have filled the form. Coming to the conclusion from the discussions that we had, most people are struggling with speed. They think that they are not able to attempt a good number of questions. So I thought that I will take a session today in which we will just give a thought to how many questions we can attempt and what is the ideal number. Because unless you get the numbers, you won't be able to crack the paper. So I will take yes, last year's CAT 2021 slot 3 paper, and we will see all the different types of questions. We will see whether this question would have taken more than 2 minutes, and why should we have that 2-minute cap on every question that we attempt. Okay, so I will share the sheet here. Here is the sheet. All of you can see the screen, right? I have shared the CAT 2021 slot 3 paper. Yeah. So last year we had 24 questions. So the number of questions are 24. I will not solve. I will just show some things to you which you have to keep in mind. So 24 questions in all. And if you look at, so let's start with the strategy, whether we should attempt VA questions first or RC questions first. This is first. This is the first thing that you have to start with. VA first or RC. Now, some people, I think most of you would have already uh, established a sort of strategy, and I think some of you will be starting with RC, some of you will be starting with VA. That's fine, but how many of you start with VA? You start with VA and then you move on to RC. I think that could be, yes, lots of people start with VA and then you go to RC. Okay. The reason why people start with VA is because VA questions are shorter. That is the biggest motivation. VA questions are shorter, and because they are shorter, you take less time to take a look at them. This is, I think, the logic behind starting with VA. This is what I do. Even I start with VA because it is less cumbersome, less time taking. It takes less effort to store the information. So VA questions are shorter and they take less time to read. Correct? These are the two reasons why people might be starting with the VA questions. And also within the VA questions, I think 3 to 8 solve, give confidence and provide. Yes, correct. That's the logic that even I follow. That once you attempt 8 questions at the start of the paper and you get, let's say, I think out of 8, at least you will get 3 correct, because no paper is so difficult as to make it impossible for you to even get 3 questions correct. Please don't think about the extreme cases. What happens if I don't get any question incorrect? Now, that is not a situation which you have to imagine at this stage. I think in all probability, if you attempt 8 questions, you should get at least 3 or 4 correct if you have enough of hard work. है ना? Now, if you look at all the summary questions, they are very similar to RCs. In fact, what I feel is summary is equal to short RC. Short RC with just one question. It should not take more than 2 minutes. Para summaries are mostly doable. Even in the mocks, if you look at para summary, if you don't get the question, at least you can finish it within 2 minutes. Whether you get it right or get it wrong, that's a different thing. So the first lesson that you all have to follow is that start your paper with para summary. You can try. I don't say that you have to do this on the D-Day, but in the coming 3 weeks, just see if starting your paper with para summary helps you, because you settle down by the time you have finished all the para summary questions. It's just like you are on the pitch. India is batting first, and you face a bowler who is, let's say, slow medium pace, or you face a spinner in the opening over. So most of us would say yes, facing a spinner would be less dreadful than facing a fast bowler who balls at, let's say, 160 miles or 160 kilometers per hour. Are you getting my point? You might even hit the fast bowler for boundaries and sixes just as well as you might hit the spinner for fours and sixes. But if given a preference, you would say I would I would opt for the spinner or a medium pace bowler, because at least that headache you don't have. So start your paper with para summary and finish all the 3 questions within 6 minutes. Most of the para summary questions are doable, and if you get at least 1 or 2 questions correct, you will be on a positive note. And even if you don't get correct, at least you have finished 3 questions in 2 minutes. So in 6 minutes, you have already had a look at 3 questions. Taking a look at the question and saying them bye-bye is also a sort of confidence, because you are moving ahead in the paper. Moving ahead is also being in the battle. Staying in the question without moving ahead and losing time is the most frustrating thing in the ARC. You are there in the question, you are reading the question, you are not getting it, and still you are there in the question. It happens even in the LR and Q. You are there in the question, you are trying to solve, and still you are struggling, and still the time is running out. So reading a question and leaving it is also a step in the right direction, because one thing you have seen, you have said bye-bye. Either you have marked or you have left it because it was too difficult, but you have finished them within 2 minutes. So as long as you are sailing through in the paper without wasting much time on any question, you would feel happy about it. Your unhappiness, your frustration starts when you are spending too much time, but you're not getting the question correct. That is the situation that you all have to avoid in the coming days. In fact, try to not create these kind of situations while writing your mocks. Once you get used to it, even in the exam day, on the exam day, you would be able to maintain that sort of thing. So start your paper with para summary. Preferably go to odd one, if possible. And odd one out, I had a session 3-4 days back. I had shared the link on the group. If you want, I will share it again. I have used the pairing method to show you how we can arrive at odd one out answers in a shorter amount of time with higher degree of probability of getting the question correct. So odd one out in comparison to Parajumbles, I would say that para summary is the first preference, odd one out is the second preference. And if you feel that you're not, if you feel that you are in good rhythm, you can take a look at maybe 1 or 2 PJ questions. If you feel that you haven't taken much time in para summary and all, then you can go to the PJ questions and say, okay, let me just see what is there in the PJ questions. Some of you might take a look at only 1 or 2 PJ questions. Some of you might leave the PJ questions entirely, depending upon the amount of time you have taken to solve para summary and odd one out. But it would not be a bad idea to start your paper with this. Some of you might say, I will start with para summary. I will go to RC directly. So some of you would say, I will start with para summary. I will go to RC1. I will take RC2. Then I will go to odd one out. Then I might go to RC3. And most likely you will finish your paper here. So you will 3 questions here, 4 questions here, 4 questions here, 3 questions here, and then 4 questions here. The number comes to 437 plus 411 plus 3, 14 plus 4 is equal to 18. So what you have done, you have attempted 3 RCs, you have gone through para summary, odd one out, you haven't touched PJ and one RC. This could be the strategy. So you start with PS, go to RC, take some rest, go to odd one out, relax for a while, and again come back to RC. This is the other strategy you might try. If you feel that you can accommodate 4 more questions or 3 more questions, then you can say PS, RC1, RC2, odd one out, RC3, 4, and then maybe you will have a look at the PJ. Just because towards the end, you might get 2 or 3 minutes. Let's try one PJ and try to finish off the paper. This could also be a strategy, maybe one PJ at the end when you have 2 or 3 minutes left. Preferably the question which is easy to read. So this could take your attempt to 18, 19, maybe. But some people say, sir, is it possible that I attempt RC1, RC2, RC3, RC4, and then go to the VA part in which I take the para summary questions, 3 questions, and then odd one out question 3, leaving the Parajumbles. Some of you might even be good enough to take the Parajumbles 3 questions. Sorry, odd one out 2 questions hota hai, Parajumble you have 3 questions. Now, if you have very, very good speed, then you might do this. So you will take 8 minutes, 8 minutes 16, 8 minutes 24, 8 minutes 32, and then you will rush with the para summary. Quite possible, but I don't see many people attempting 24 questions. Most of them get stuck around 20, 22. So you will definitely miss either one RC or some Parajumbles. This is going to be a choice for you. Either you want to miss one RC or the Parajumbles. I would say you take a look at the Parajumbles and go to the RC. Take a look at the questions and see which question can be solved directly from first paragraph, last paragraph, X line, Y line, or something which is very short and can be attempted. Okay. So coming back to the thing here, that ideally your attempt should be in the range of 18 to 20. This is ideal case. You can go more than this. I would be very happy, but this should be the case. The next worst case should be, okay, so some of you might say, sir, my speed is very low. I'm not confident of attempting 18, 20. So the other range is around 15 to 18 at least. You should not go below 15. Is it good to drop PJ, sir? It is not a good idea to drop PJ without looking at the questions. Are you getting my point? It is a very, very bad idea to drop the PJ without even looking at the questions, because there might be a question that could be very, very simple and could be cracked within 1 minute. I have seen PJ questions in 18, 19, and 2021 that could have been cracked within 1 minute. They are so simple. So yes, Parajumbles you should not waste much time on. But if you come across a question that you feel can be cracked in a very short amount of time, you please attack that question, because 70% of the takers are going to crack that question. And if you don't crack that, you have lost 3 marks and your percentile is likely to go down. Every easy question is going to count, whether it comes from RC, PJ, odd one out, or para summary. Koi farak nahi padta, because every easy question is precious. It's precious. Understand this. That's why my suggestion is that you should be fast enough to look at all the questions. Understand this difference. Fast enough to look at all the questions and fast enough to solve all the questions. There's a difference between the two. है ना? Looking का मतलब क्या होता है? मैंने देख तो लिया है बॉस, मेरे को लगा मेरे से होगा नहीं, मैंने छोड़ दिया. इसको बोलते हैं देखना. अगर आप see, if you don't even see the question, you would never know whether what you have missed was easy or difficult. You know, I was solving one quant paper in one CAT, and I started not with the first, second, third question. I went directly through 18th, 19th, 20th question. And to my surprise, I found that 19 and 20th were the easiest of all the questions in the quant. I solved both of them. I got both of them correct. A simple, logic-based question in quant 19 and 20. One was based on some SCF concept, and the other was based on some work and time concept. So it's not that what you don't see is always difficult, but it's possible. So that's why my point is that be fast enough to see all the questions. That's why you have to keep on clicking, and you will get that flash that these questions look easy. After having gone through so much of practice, I think most of you would have developed the instinct of realizing that this is doable and this is not doable. At least it works in my case. Even when I look at some of the LR sets, I tell Rakesh and Rahul sir that this is, I think, doable. Because when I see that the number of conditions are not that many and the number of variables are few, I realize that this can be done in a shorter amount of time. On the other hand, when I see that there's a complexity of variable, there is complexity of conditions, I feel ये नहीं होगा इतने कम time में. And you people having practiced so much, I think you have developed that instinct that the moment you look at the para summary and you read it the first time, you realize कि ये बन जाना चाहिए. It may not always be the case, but at least the probability is quite high that ये बन जाए. That's why my point to all of you is be fast enough to see all the questions, in at least in VARC and QA. Seeing all the questions is very important. The problem in VARC is that if you to see, you have to again read the entire thing. In QA, once seeing is enough to give you a clue as to whether it is doable or not. That's why VARC takes more time. Anyways, so I will go to the next step now. Sir, can I attempt 2 RCs and focus more on accuracy and 8 VA? See, when you attempt 2 RCs, it comes to 8 questions and plus 8 VA. So there are 16 questions. I told you that in the worst case, you have to be within the 15 to 18 range. So this is not a bad idea at all. But now the point is, if your attempts go below 15, then what will happen? Now, in this case, luck starts playing the role. If your attempts are in the range of 14, then I think what you would have done, you would have gone with 2 RCs or 3 RCs. Attempting less than 2 VA or 2 VA is a very, it's a big mistake. So people who attempt 14 questions or less than 14, what happens? They attempt 2 RCs in most of the cases, not more than 2. Because if they attempt more than 2, they would attempt 12 questions. Now, when you attempt 2 RCs and you attempt all the VA questions, this is where you run the risk. If out of these 2 RCs, one does not fall in place, your paper is gone, almost gone. Because the 2 RCs that you picked, you thought they were easy, but somehow they did not fall in place. In one, you got only 2 correct. In the other, you got just 1 correct, maybe 2 correct. And even if you get 4 correct, 4 RC, 4 correct, 4 wrong, 12 marks minus 4 is equal to 8 marks. And in VA, if you attempt 8, you get 4 correct, you'll get 12 marks. Maybe -1 summary, you'll get 11. You will fall below that. You will be trapped in that range of 18, 20. Which if you have reservation might be decent enough, otherwise it will take your score below 80 percentile, 85 percentile. That's the reason why my appeal to all of you is that if you go with 2 hours, when I attempt 1 minute, one by one, Arundhati has a question, when I attempt 18, 20 question, my accuracy goes down, what to do? See, your accuracy should goes down primarily because, see, accuracy, if you attempt 20 questions and your accuracy say goes down below 50%, there is a problem. I believe that when you attempt 18 to 20 questions, your accuracy has to be at least 60%, if not 80%. Every 10 questions should give me at least 6 questions correct. So if you attempt 10 here, you should get 6 correct, again 10, again 6 correct. So 6 plus is equal to 12 to 3, 36 marks. 36 marks and then minus maybe, let's say 4 plus 4, 8. So there could be, let's say 6 negative or 5 negative. Still you are above 30. The problem I face in PJ, it takes more than 5 or कोई दिक्कत नहीं ना यार. This kind of risk is always there in PJ. Don't worry about it. This risk you have to take. If you get 1 correct, 2 wrong, no problem. At least attempt, because in the exam you might get 2 correct and 1 wrong. Your accuracy has to be at least 60% if your attempts is more than 80. More than 80, the lower the attempt, the higher the accuracy in demand. The higher the attempt, the lower the accuracy you can afford. If you attempt 20, 18 questions and you get only 8 correct, 9 correct, so very, very poor accuracy. See, the fact that you are attempting so many questions means that you are encountering easy questions as well. Now, I will just show you the paper, last year's paper, and we'll see what strategy could have been adopted by a student who took CAT 2021 in slot 3, correct? So all of you see that this is the first passage and the passage. So look at the length of the passage now. The length of the passage here is how many words, people? 5 and 6 words. All of you can see the screen here. So this is a 516 word passage. How many of you feel that this should take more than 2 minutes? I doubt. Even if you put a timer, the reason why you take more than 2 minutes to read or more than 3-4 minutes to read is because your concentration is very poor. If someone starts from this sentence and goes on till the end without a break, you should take not more than 2 minutes to read the entire passage. And that too without missing a single sentence. So if you start reading, it says here that back in early 2000, an awesome thing happened in the new X-Men comics. Our mutant heroes had been battling giant robots called Sentinels for years. But suddenly these mechanical overlords spawned a new threat, nanosentinels. Not content to rule Earth with their metal fists, these tiny robots invaded our bodies at the microscopic level, infected humans, and were slowly converted into machines. So if you look at this entire paragraph, you immediately realize that the author is talking about some sort of comics in which someone is invading our bodies. They are robots and robots are invading our bodies. So you have to be very quick at the same time, not worry that you are able to retain everything. The problem with most of you is that you read with the expectation that you will memorize everything. My point is that if you finish the reading in less than 2 minutes, the time that you save can be invested in the questions that you solve. That is the critical problem with most of you. The amount of time that you take to read is so high that by the time you go to the question, you have hardly any time left. So you take the question in a sort of hurry or haste. The time investment should happen when you come in the question, not when you read the passage. But in most of your cases, it's vice versa. Now, this question says, which of the following scenarios, if false, could be seen as supporting the passage? The moment you see if false, most of you start sweating and shivering. But I have given you the trick that if false basically means if true, and if true means this would become the opposite of supporting. So, which of the following scenarios, if false, would support the passage, means if true, would weaken the passage. So, you have to go with the one that weakens the passage. Simply look at the options and go and choose the one that weakens the passage. I'm just giving an example here. So if you have gone through the past year papers, you will not realize that there are ways by which you can shorten this question. If you look at all the questions here, you will look at this. Which of the following statements best summarizes the central point of the passage? So my point is that if you have read the passage once and you have look at this, which one of the following statements best captures the sense of the first paragraph? So if I read the passage the first time, I would immediately attack question number 3 first. Because to answer this question, I just need to read the first paragraph. So suppose if I am ending my paper, I have just 2 minutes left and I have one RC. I would not read the entire RC and then go to the questions, because the moment you read the RC, you will finish all the 2 minutes that you have. It's better you look at all the questions one by one and you pick a question that you can answer by reading a very, very small part of the passage. So for me, if there are only 2 minutes left before the end of the session or the section timing, I would say, okay, so ye isko pehla paragraph padhna hai. Okay, let's go to the first paragraph. What do we see here? It says here that back in 2000, an awesome thing happened in the new X-Men comics. Our mutant heroes had been battling giant robots called Sentinels, but suddenly these mechanical overlords spawned a new threat. So who is spawning a new threat? The Sentinels are giving you nanosentinels. And not content to rule Earth with their metal fists, these tiny robots invaded our bodies at the microscopic level and they infected humans, making them into machines. So you go there and check which option is the best and try to. The X-Men were mutant heroes who now had to battle tiny robots called nanosentinels. People who were infected by nanosentinels robots became mutants who were called X-Men. No, people did not become X-Men. Tiny sentinels called X-Men infected people. No, called X-Men infected people during 20 mutant robot overlords. So did we become mutant robots? Just check. You just have to go and check and verify. And within 2 minutes, you might be able to solve this question. Are you getting my point, people? Yes or no? So the strategy is, as Rahul sir also explained yesterday, that try to maximize your score. Which method? We will see that. Preferably, you will find that there is always one easy question in every paper. Always in every RC. I mean, every RC has at least one easy question. There's a question from someone. Brian says, "Sir, wasn't good at RC and I attempted 70-80 question. And my 12 didn't this one. I got." हाँ ठीक है ना यार. देखो 18-20 करके 31 आ रहा है ना तो बढ़िया है फिर. You don't be very sensitive about what you get wrong. But you have to ensure that when there is an easy question like this, you can't afford to get this kind of question wrong. Because most of the good students would get this question correct. And this is where you will start losing the battle. Now, the answer to this question is option number 1. The X-Men were mutant heroes who now had to battle tiny robots called nanosentinels. People who were infected by nanosentinels robots became mutants. People did not become mutant. People's bodies were invaded. So people did not become mutant. Tiny centers called X-Men infected people, turning them into mutant robot. They did not become mutant robot overlords. The overlords were the Sentinels. We became basically their slaves. If you look at this word, it means turning them, turning people into overlords. Now, turning people into overlords is not what is happening in the first paragraph. Look at this. These tiny robots invaded our bodies, infected humans, were slowly converted to machines. So we were converted into machines, not overlords. Overlord का मतलब होता है बाप, दादा, the king, the superior person. So this has mistake here. This has a mistake in the entire structure. This is the one that looks like the best and is the right answer. So definitely someone who has 2 minutes left, he did a smart thing. Rather than reading the entire RC, he read the question. He saw that there is one question which can be answered only by reading the first paragraph. He read the first paragraph. He marked the answer. He got 3 minutes in the uh, final climactic moments of the section 1. So smartness is not something that is defined by a rule book. It is very dynamic. You have to keep on changing. That's why I always say that every cricket match is different. The players' skills, their strokes might be the same, but the scenario that you face in every cricket match is going to be different. And every cricket match needs a different sort of innovative approach. You can't play the same match the way you played last match. Same goes here also. So one of the strategy you have to keep in mind is that read the passage with full concentration, but quickly without worrying about what you don't understand. Because if that is the pain that remains in your head, then what comes later on, you will never understand because your mind is stuck somewhere here. So though you are moving ahead, you are still stuck somewhere here. And that is where your thinking has been paralyzed. SimCats are very difficult this year. I have been telling everyone that SimCats are very difficult. If you are able to cross 20 in SimCat, you are doing well. If you are crossing 13 SimCat, you are doing excellent. But if you are falling below 15 in SimCat, that means you need improvement because you're not getting even the easy questions correct. This is the complaint that most of the students have given me, sir. My CL and time, I'm crossing 30, 35, even 40. But when it comes to SimCat, now the problem is most of these people who design the paper, they follow a certain strategy. After writing 10, 15 mocks, you know what their strategy is and how they fool the student. So you get the pattern of designing. And that's the reason why for some people, after writing 10, 12 mocks of a certain time CL or whatever you are writing, you get to know that this is the way I would be tested and fooled. And you start marking the options correctly. That's why learn from all the mocks that you write. If it is going below 20 in a certain mock, and look at the percentile also, because percentile should not fall below 90. That means people are doing better than you have done. Okay? So what we learn here is a good amount of time has to be invested in the question. And look at this now. Many people say, ye wala question okay. This was, once you solve this question, look at this. Which of the following statements is best summarizes the central point? Now, this is just a remake of summary question. It's quite possible that you have read the passage once while solving maybe these two questions. Now look at this. Which of the following, if true, would be the most direct extension of the argument in the passage? This question can be cracked not by simply reading the last paragraph. No. But if you have read the entire passage, it would be easy for you to crack this question. Because it is asking you that you have to extend the argument in the passage. That means that whatever the author has discussed until this point, you have to go ahead and extend the discussion beyond this. So to me, this paragraph becomes very important because at the end of this paragraph, the author would extend the passage. So for me, this para becomes very important. Robots that are wholly or partly made of glue aren't the future that I was promised in science fiction, but is definitely the future I want. I am especially keen on nanometer scale soft robots that could one day swim through our bodies. A director at Max Planck, worked with colleagues to prototype these tiny synthetic beasts using various stretchy materials. They are assembled into a finished shape by applying magnetic field. The results look like flowers or geometric shapes. They are guided through tubes of fluid using magnets and can even stop and cling to the sides. So if you read this paragraph, without reading this paragraph, this does not make sense. Because what the author has done here, he has extended the argument from here to here. Sometimes these materials are used to enhance more conventional robots. Our team of researchers has developed a different kind of hydrogel that becomes sticky when exposed to a low voltage zero. So what happens basically is you can definitely answer the first paragraph by reading the first paragraph alone. But if you move further ahead and it asks you what would be the logical extension to this paragraph, you have to read the entire story. And only then you would be able to appropriately mark the direction in which the author is going to take his discussion further. Okay? So there are two questions here which are relatively easier to solve. One is the one that came from the first paragraph alone, and the other is which asks you to extend the argument after the end of the last paragraph. And after doing all this, it would be very easy for you to solve the central point of the passage. So once you have read the passage twice to answer two questions, this should not be a time-consuming affair. My point is that please don't give more than 2 minutes to any question. If you feel that, okay, if you look at the first question here, the first question says which of the following, if false, could be seen as supporting the passage. Which of the following, if true, could be seen as weakening the passage. You have read the entire passage, just read it and see which one is weakening and go ahead. So I believe that this was not a difficult to read passage. Not at all. It is just a science fiction kind of a thing where the author says that technology can do wonders. And he says we can create nano robots, we can put them in our bodies, and they can cure lots of diseases. They can give longevity to human beings and so on and so forth. So again, I'm telling you will take roughly 1.5 minutes to read the RC. You should take around 2 minutes for the third question. 3.5, 4, 5 minutes. Within 9-10 minutes, you can wrap up this RC with getting 3 questions correct, maybe all questions correct. So be on your toes right from the word go. That's why you should be fresh. You should have had good sleep. You should be in the right state of mind. You should not be frustrated. You should have no fear, so that you can see all those details which otherwise is not visible to other people. Now let's go to the next one. Keeping time accurately comes with a price. I have taken all these questions before, so I will not focus on, but this RC also is how many words? Take a look. This RC, I think, is around 500, not more than that. This is 528 words, I believe. Just a moment. 528 words. Okay, yes, 528 words. So 517, 528, 530. The RC length is going to be between 450 and 550, not more than that. Again, reading time should not be more than 2 minutes. Keeping time accurately comes with the price. The maximum accuracy of clock is directly related to how much disorder or entropy it creates every time it ticks. Natalia S. at the University of Oxford made this discovery using a tiny clock with an accuracy that can be controlled. The clock consists of a 50 nanometer thick membrane of silicon nitride vibrated by electric current. Each time the membrane moved up and down once and then returned to its original position, the researchers counted a tick, and the regularity of the spacing between the ticks represent the accuracy of the clock. In fact, what the author discusses from here to this point is all nonsense. All nonsense. In fact, he is simply describing the process by which someone is controlling the accuracy of the clock. So what he is doing is not very important to you, whether it's a 50 nanometer or a silicon nitride or what. Just forget about it. Keeping time accuracy comes with a price. The maximum accuracy of a clock is related to the disorder or the entropy it creates. The researchers found that as they increased the clock's accuracy, the heat produced in the system grew, increasing the entropy of its surrounding by jostling nearby particles. If a clock is more accurate, you are paying for it somehow, says Ayres. In this case, you pay for it by pouring more ordered energy into the clock, which is then converted into entropy. So the author says that if you want more accuracy, you have to put more energy. So this is how you keep on reading and you keep on summarizing. So see, again, it's not a difficult RC at all. If you look at this RC, I think it's a doable RC because when you read it, you feel that it is very much in control. All those philosophy and sociology, nothing has come here. So in SimCAT mocks, eliminating question is very difficult. Eliminating question is difficult. SimCAT is giving difficult RCs. See, understand this. It is not SimCAT that will design your final CAT. When you write any mock, you should write with the intention that you should not miss on easy question in comparison to others. Keep this in mind. Options are, yes, options are, and there I know most there are lots of questions which are absolute nonsense. I will take I think CAT 13 in the coming week. I will discuss the paper, and they are keeping lots of those options, but they are making it to see one of the flip side of writing very difficult mock or making the mock very difficult is that people have unnecessary fear. So when they see easy question, they don't believe that the question could be so easy. This is the biggest problem that mock people create in students, particularly in the VARC section. That you get so much used to difficult question that you don't believe that questions could be easy. And when in the exam you see very easy question, you somehow tend to recheck and verify it many times. I know many people have been facing this issue. That's why while analyzing the mock, you have to look at this overall accuracy figure. The overall accuracy figure is very, very important. In fact, it is the most important indicator of where you stand with respect to others. If the overall accuracy figure is more than 50% for any question, that means this question is doable. You have made a mistake or something has gone wrong with you. These questions are the ones that you should look, check, and verify and see why you have gone wrong. Anything that has been done right by less than 40 or 35% people means it's pure luck. So instead of worrying about how close options, see, all these are subjective things. The options might be very, very close according to you. But if this is the statistics for that question, then you need to think about it. And you can pass on those questions to me then. Because this question should not create any sort of debate or doubt in your mind. Because already more than 50% of the people have got it correct. It means that more than 50% undoubtedly feel that this is the right answer. So the logic was straightforward, not very complicated. Only worry about these questions. Whenever you see this accuracy percentage, start looking at it. Of course, you should have got it wrong to look at it. If you have got it right, I think you are very much on track. And the other reason why your CAT performance is going down is because you're not encountering that many easy questions. That means your attempts are on the lower side. That could be the only reason. See, again, I'm not talking about people who are CAT 13, most of the question accuracy was less than. हाँ तो वही है ना, बना देते हैं यार, अब काम ही क्या है. You look at mocks, तो मैं I will ठीक है, समझ गया मैं, छोड़. Anyways, so this is also very much a readable passage. And if you go to the question, look at the question here. Which of the following sets of words and phrases serves the best keywords? Now, to answer this question, there is no need to understand the passage like a scientist. Whether you understand the meaning of entropy or not is immaterial. You can answer this question even if you don't understand science at all. Which of the following sets of words and phrases serves best as keywords of the passage? So keywords का मतलब ये होता है कि these words are dominating the discussion in the passage. And someone says silicon nitride. Look at the nonsense. This word has come only once. And it serves as the keyword of the passage. Do you think you will mark this kind of a choice as your answer? In 1 second, you can kick this option out. Less than 1 second. Membrane. So the way silicon nitride goes out, even a membrane word goes out. Because the word membrane has come only once in the passage and it was technical description of some clock. So can I say these two options go out right away? Yes or no? How can you put a word as a keyword which has come only once in the entire passage? And that too as a technical description of some minor thing. So many people, you know, they see, you will not find a single CAT question of this category. Straightforward, simple, to the point, you can get it correct. इलेक्ट्रिक करंट हो रहा है, हीट हो रहा है, क्वांटम इफेक्ट हो रहा है, एंट्रोपी का वर्ड ही नहीं आया. मेजरिंग टाइम की मेजरिंग टाइम से स्टार्ट हो रहा है. Accuracy of a clock is the discussion with which it starts, and this option does not even have that word in it. Accuracy तो होना चाहिए ना टाइम का. एंट्रोपी देना पड़ेगा. एंट्रोपी पे डिपेंड करता है एक्यूरेसी. Don't you think this is the answer? Yes or no? How much time would you take to mark this question if you have read the passage once? How much time do you think? Less than 30 seconds. तो जहां स्कोर बनता है वहां बनाने की कोशिश करो पीपल, यही तो गलती हो रही है ना आप लोगों से। सो मेनी पीपल, ये रॉन्ग होगा इसको लेके बहुत चिंता हो जाएगी। ये तो ऑलरेडी रॉन्ग हो चुका है उनका, इसको लेके बड़ी चिंताएं होंगी, अरे यार क्या हो रहा है सर, मेरे से एक्सेप्ट नहीं हो रहा है। बट माई क्वेश्चन इज, ये तो ठीक है नहीं हुआ, समझ में आता है, ये क्यों नहीं हुआ आपसे? This question would be got right by more than 50% of the students. This question would be got right by, let's say, less than 30% of the students. है ना? This won't matter much. This would matter a lot. Every easy question is going to throw you out of the race. This is what I have seen statistically. And if you don't believe in me, in the coming days, you look at all the questions that has been got right by more than 50% people, and you will see where you are going wrong. And let me have a look at some of the other questions of this RC. Let me see if there is something. Look at this question now. This question has come only from a specific part in the passage. It is a bit like fuel in a car. Just because I am using more fuel doesn't mean that I am going faster or further. That means it has come somewhere as an example or as a comparison to something you can go and check and you can mark the answer. I have discussed this RC before as well. The यहाँ it is a bit like a fuel in the car. So if you go here, just check where is the word fuel coming in and what is the discussion here. So look at this. Explicitly visible. So it says here, the relationship that the researchers found is a limit on the accuracy of a clock. So it doesn't mean that a clock that creates the most possible entropy would be maximally accurate. Hence, a large, inefficient grandfather clock isn't more precise than an atomic clock. So this again needs a contextual understanding. So you have to go one paragraph above as well. A clock that creates the most possible entropy would be maximally accurate. Hence, a large, inefficient grandfather clock isn't more precise than an atomic clock. It's a bit like fuel used in a car. Just because I'm using more fuel doesn't mean that I'm going faster or further. So basically, it all depends upon. So you can just check the options now. If you go faster in a car, you tend to consume more fuel. But हाँ शायद ये तो सही लग रहा है. The further you will have to read the entire RC actually. You can't just read small part and mark. But this is a very easy question, I believe. Answer इसका यही होना चाहिए. Yes, the faster you go, the less time is. So fit options. Application based question है यार, difficult थोड़ी ना होता है. There are always scoring chances, people. That's why I have been in my entire journey of from 2017 to 2021. I have found only two very difficult RCs, and those came way back in CAT 2019 or 2020, I believe. I think 19 mein aaya tha. The RCs were very, very tough. Two RCs were tough. Again, even in those two RCs, I will show you questions which can be done simply by reading the question. There is no need for you to go and read the passage. In the toughest of the RCs, I am telling you. Now, many people thought that कि सर ये VA कैसे करेंगे VA वाला. So I will just give an example of Parajumble and you decide which one do you think is little on the easier side. Let's say for example यहाँ पे. Now look at this question. There are four choices given to you, four sentences given to you, and you have to create a jumble. Now this is a kind of a question which is better left within 1 minute. Do you think you should give time to it? Just read the question. It is regimes of truth that make certain relationships speakable. Relationships like subjectivities are considered through its discursive formation. Discursive formations, subjectivities, relationships, Foucauldian approach. I don't know what is Foucauldian approach. When you look at all this, see the difficulty in understanding is clearly visible. Difficulty in understanding is clearly apparent when you read this for the first 40 seconds. Yes or no? Now, there are two kinds of students, The one set of students will immediately attack it. They will start putting all the efforts. See, if they are very, very good students, they have finished all the other questions and they have good amount of time, they feel that they have 5 minutes with 3 questions left, they will give time to it. But if you're not a very good student, you haven't been a very good student, you have been scoring 30, 30 to 28 in your mocks, don't make the mistake of spending 40 seconds and then spending 1 more minute into this question. Already there are indications that this is not going to be your cup of tea. So the sooner you leave, the better it is for you. The more the time you take, the more frustrated you will become. The chances are very high that you will get this question wrong. Very high chances. Last year at 62 score, there was 100 percentile in VARC. The guy studying in FMS Delhi, he was our student in Lucknow last year. So 62 number, he has got 100 percentile. So I am quite sure that even the guy who gets 100 percentile would not get this question correct, would have left or missed on this question. And we will look at the other parajumble now. So this should have been left within 30-40 seconds, not more than that. If you go into this question, that means you haven't listened to my advice of solving only easy parajumbles. Let's go and take the next parajumble. If you see it somewhere, है ना? नीचे आगे बढ़ते हैं. So this one. What about this question? This is also parajumble. You compare this with the earlier one. We have taken this question in the earlier session, but tell me now, if you compare this with the earlier one, फट से लगता है ना? But in recent years, robotics has had increasing impacts on unemployment. For years, politicians have promised workers that they would bring their jobs by clamping down on trade. Business and fine automation, such as robotic employees, a big asset. Economists, based on their research, say that the bigger threat. So you're easy to read. Easy to read basically means that I can now give time to this question. So you say, "Acha, to isko time dena banta hai." You pick the pieces from here. But in recent years, robotics has had increasing impact. That means in the earlier sentence, there must have been some negative impact. Sorry, some positive impact, because this is negative impact. Unemployment is negative impact. So business and fine automation, such as robotic employees, a big asset. So they find a big asset positive, but in recent years, they have negative impact. 1 and 2 is the pair. So this cannot come after 1 and 2. So this would come at the start. Fat se pit ho jata hai. At least you can try. At least there is a good chance that if you give 2 minutes, there is a probability of 50% you will get this question correct. In the earlier question, even if you give 2 minutes, the chances are that you will not get the question correct. And if you give more than 2 minutes, you will definitely get it incorrect and you will be penalized by it because you have spent more time. So this was a doable question. And you realized it when you read the question. The earlier one was not a doable question and you realized it. In what order the section come in the exam? You will have VARC first. Then you will have LRDI. Then you will have QA. If you spoil here, then these two will anyways go out of the world. No, it is not jumbled. In CAT, it is. In CAT, they give you an order. GRE, it is jumbled, I know. GRE is section-wise adaptive. So they adapt the first section of the second. The second section is based on your performance in the first section. So the second parajumble was quite manageable. Let's have a look at the third parajumble and see how it looks. So वो भी नीचे कहीं पे होगा. नहीं, नीचे नहीं है. So there is one more parajumble. I don't know where it is. Look at this. Look at this one parajumble. Museums in Europe today are struggling to come to terms with the colonial regulatory system, taking steps to return artifacts but not wanting to lose their prized possession. This is in response to countries like Nigeria who are pressurizing European museums to return their precious artifacts. Restitution of artifacts to original culture could face legal obstacles. Legal hurdles notwithstanding, easy to read, worth giving 2 minutes. Yes or no? Don't you realize? Right hua, wrong hua, baat ki baat hai. It is worth giving 2 minutes. So out of the 3 parajumble, there was one which you should have read and left. So I have seen, I left. I saw, I attempted, and I got it correct. So ultimately, kya ho raha hai? So what happens is, the first question you see, within 40 seconds, you leave it. The second question you see, you take around, let's say 140 seconds and you attempted it. Then the third question you see, you took 100 seconds and you attempted it. What is the net result? You have spent 240 to 80 seconds, maybe 300 minutes, right? Sorry, 300 seconds. The amount of time that you have given is how much? कितना मिनट दे दिया? 5 मिनट दे दिया आपने. अगर इस 5 मिनट में 3 नंबर आते हैं, is it a bad deal? Even if you get one correct, worst case scenario में एक तो होना चाहिए correct ना यार. Yes or no, people? After giving 300 seconds, you left one question, one you got wrong and one you got right. So 5 minutes, 3 questions, ठीक है यार, मतलब not a bad bargain. Summary में higher probability है because you are doing the parajumbles, right? But in summary, the probability and the ratio would go down. In summary, you will take 2 plus 2 plus 2, maximum 6 minutes, but you will get around 6 marks possibly. So all the permutation and combination should yield you in 15 minutes from VA at least 12 marks. Yes or no, people? Don't you realize that? 15-minute, 12 marks in VA should be the target. And in 25 minutes in the RCs, you should be able to attempt 3 RCs. That means 12 questions and get at least 8 correct or 7 correct. Even if you get 6 correct in the RCs, even then 6 threes are 18 minus 6 12, 12 plus 12 24. So 2 plus negative. Lekin still you are able to cross the 24 touch the 24 barrier by getting 50% accuracy in the RCs. So when you go below 20, that means you haven't performed well actually. And the same goes with the summary questions as well. If you look at all the summary questions, none of the summary questions in any of the slots were overly difficult. No, I don't see any summary question very difficult. Look at this question. Do you think you will take 2 minutes to solve this question? No. Within 1 minute, this summary question can be nailed. Brazil's growth rate has been low, yet most Brazilians say their financial situation has improved and they expect it to get even better. This is because most incomes are rising fast, the higher minimum wages and very low unemployment. The result is falling inequality and a growing middle class. The result of economic stabilization, improved social security, and universal primary education. All the positive things about Brazil's economic growth. But despite recent improvements, the Brazilian economy is still painfully unequal, with poor Brazilians paying the biggest share of their income in taxes. Okay, you will take around 20, 25, 30 seconds to read. Read all the options, maybe once or twice or thrice. Within 1.5 minutes, this can be nailed. Yes or no? Your summary question should not take 1.5 plus 1.5 plus 3, 4.5 minutes. 5 minutes, all 3 summary question can be cracked. Right or wrong, that's a different thing. Don't you feel people 5 minutes, 3 summary? 5 minutes, 3 parajumble because you left the one that was too complicated. So again, 10 minutes, you have solved how many questions? 6 questions. So understand, your attempt has to be towards more than 16. Only then you can call that you are safe. If it falls very low, the risks are very, very high, people. In NMAT, you should start with verbal. Because verbal towards the end can be very challenging. Not challenging. You get exhausted, And if you take verbal towards the end, when you are exhausted, you may not get the desired accuracy. So verbal, because it has lots of critical reasoning and RC questions, it is better done at the start of the paper because you are very fresh at the start of the paper. This is good in CAT. You start with verbal, so you get completely sucked up. Then you have LRDI, which is slightly, again, a challenge, but not as big a challenge as verbal is. Because you will not solve more than 2 sets. So you can, once you have got the right set, you can crack it. And then you go to QA, which is individual question. But in CAT, you have to be on your toes across the 2-hour period. You can't say that I lose my concentration or. So I hope you people understand the importance of maintaining some degree of urgency and speed. It's not that people who attempt only 12 or 11 questions, they don't do well. People who attempt 12, 11 also do well, provided they get all 10 or 11 correct. There are people who get this kind of scores as well. It's not that they don't get. But my only concern is that if you have this kind of attempt, you have to be really lucky that you pick the right RCs. If you pick the RC thinking that the RC was easy to read and the questions turn out to be tough, then this kind of performance might become difficult. So 12-11 is not a bad idea if you are very, very confident of your accuracy. That if you pick an RC, there are 4 questions, you like only 2, you will mark only 2, you will leave the other 2. If you are a person of that kind, then you can definitely say, I will not compromise on my accuracy. Clear to all of you people? So the idea is that 12 minutes for at least 7 VA questions and the rest 20, let's say 26 minutes for around 12 RC questions. This is what I want. 12 minutes, 7 VA questions, 26 minutes, 12 RC question. 7 plus 12 is equal to 19. If you can touch one more, ठीक है यहाँ वहां से कर लो यार, एक VA कर लो यार, but this is 1920. I think there is negative mark in advance. It was not there until recently, but just check the instruction. They changed the pattern. I hope everyone is clear about all this, the strategy part. Try to move towards that. I don't say that this will happen in the very first mock that you write tomorrow. But if it is moving in that direction, then you would be a little safer. Just imagine someone attempts 20 questions and he gets 11 correct. Very poor performance, but still 33 minus maybe 6 negative, still 27. 6 negative, why? Because the other non-RC questions will have no negative. Or I might say 7 negative. You know? Still you will get 26 correct. 26 means you will get around 90 percentile even in an easy paper. Negative and wrong, but if you are not able to attempt all of them, what will be the cost? That will cost more. Yes. If you attempt 16, then you have to at least get around 11 correct. So please follow this pattern. Try, see what happens here. Keep on trying. But in whatever the situation, try to be fast. At least fast in reading. In deciding you will do or not, you will leave or not. And whenever you see that the question is likely to be easy, you please give a little more time to it. Please verify, because that question should be gotten right by you. Clear to all of you people? This was a very, very common question I was getting yesterday. In all the counseling sessions, this was a common question. How to increase my attempt? This is the way you can do it, people. Otherwise, then you have to rely heavily on accuracy. That means you only pick a question or mark a question when you are sure it is right. Clear to all of you? So follow this in the coming days and just update me as to how your performance is. If you are getting tired of see, understand people, one thing I have always been telling, please take break from work. If you people are at your workplace, then from the 12th of this month till the 27th, you please take a break. Be on a 2-week break. Because these 2 weeks are very important. You need to revise lots of things. You need to just go through all the past mocks and all the concepts, brush up things. So you cannot be at work at the same time be into preparation, unless you are able to get very good score in spite of being a working professional. Then it's a different thing. Counseling sessions have started. It is going in a serial order. Yesterday, we took counseling of around 35-36 people. The next Saturday, or maybe in the weekdays also, we will have sessions. So you will get calls tomorrow. And once you get a call, you can fix a slot. Okay? If you haven't filled the counseling form, drop me a message. I will give you the counselor's number. You can directly call her and take a slot. The frequency of revision while writing mocks. People, When you're writing mock, write a mock every alternate day. Do the analysis of the mock on that very day. And the next day, you should reserve for revision. Revision of the old mocks, the revision of the old concepts, going through the formula, and randomly taking questions just to test your memory. Introduce as much randomness as possible in your preparation. How much time should we spend for mock analysis? At least 3 hours. Of course, if you have performed very well, you will not take 3 hours. But if your performance is average or below expectation, then you need to spend at least 3 hours. Why 3 hours? Solve all the questions you could not solve. Go through all the questions that you got correct and look for the reasons as to why it was correct. Was it a fluke or was it because of some correct reasoning process? And the ones that you could not solve, try to solve them again and see whether you're able to solve. So the analysis time could vary from, let's say, 1.5 hours to 3 hours. 1.5 hours for people who have done moderately well and I want to go through their mistakes. Otherwise, it should also be a 1 hour affair. If you get 100, 120 marks, and what would you do with the analysis? Not much effort. No, I mean, not much of effort to do the analysis. So what to do when text or series which are absurd? देखो यार, अगर lectures absurd है, तो don't waste your time on that, because that means the question itself is not up to the mark, and the person who is making the solutions has just done the formality of writing a solution. Even I do that at times. I know question is not appropriate, but because I have to finish the number of questions in the mock, I quickly make a solution and I pass it on. So you should be smart enough to understand that I should not waste much time on these kind of questions, because there are some impurities always. If you are 50-50, you mark the answer. If you're 50-50, you can go ahead and mark. But if it is, don't take a complete random risk. पता नहीं mark किए जा रहे हो, 50-50 कर सकते हो आप. Hit and miss होता रहेगा 50%. 50% you will get correct, 50% you will get wrong, and it all balances off. Okay, so people, the coming week I will take sessions in the morning. Preferably the 2 difficult RCs I will take for you, just to show you that this is how difficulty is. But even in difficult RCs, there are places where you can score. Okay. Please implement this and let's see. Keep on experimenting, people. Don't waste your time. And don't be scared of experimenting. If you're doing well already, there is no need to experiment, because then you simply overlook my advice. But if you're not writing mocks, or if you're writing mocks but not getting the desired score, then you do some experimentation. What I have suggested today, even if it improves your score by 3 or let's say 6 or 8, 9 marks, I think it's wonderful. Okay, chalo, bye. See you in the coming weekday. Thank you. Bye-bye.